TheRacingBiz.com and the Maryland Horse Breeders Association present our annual. Is this annual, John?
Somewhat annual. I mean,
annual-ish?
Annual-ish, we'll call it.
Handicapping forum for Maryland Million 2023 coming up Saturday, October 14th. 12 races on the card, topped by the Maryland Million Classic. For older runners going 1 1/8 on the main track. I'm Frank Vespi, joined here by Mackenzie Pfeiffer. Mackenzie was part of our broadcast team at Timonium, a horsewoman and handicapper. And Mackenzie, when we had you at Timonium, we sent you up in the Ferris wheel. No Ferris wheel here, but thanks for joining us.
I'm terribly sorry to disappoint. I know this is not quite the same scenery.
No. Not for you either, so but we appreciate you being here. John Piazzik with the Maryland Horse Breeders Association also handicaps Maryland on the RacingBiz.com every day of live racing. John, welcome. It's your time, man.
Yes, this and previous week are the most pressure-packed times of the year because you got all the out-of-town bettors flocking in and betting. And, I've been following these horses all year long, so I have to look good because I should know what I'm talking about. Hopefully I do, and you pick a few winners.
Yeah, pressure's on. Let's see what we can do. Gary Quill used to handicap Maryland for the Racing Biz as the GQ approached. Now he's moved out of state, but we won't tell anybody about that. But he's still got lots of Maryland garb. Gary, welcome.
Thanks, Frank, as usual, for letting me be part of this handicapping session. And it's Maryland Day at the races, and it's always great to see the crowd at the track and the celebration of horse racing in Maryland.
Celebration of horse racing in Maryland. Let's talk just quickly about the conditions of these races. These races are for Maryland sired horses. That means that in a number of races you see also eligibles, and you wonder, gee, there's only, for example, in the Classic, 8 horses in this race. Why do they need also eligibles? Those also eligibles are Maryland bred but not Maryland sired. They will only draw in if the number of Maryland sired horses in the race drops below 8, and then they can only draw in one by one to get it back up to a field size of 8. Right, John? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. That's correct. That's how it goes.
All right, that's how it goes. That's the man that has ready access to the press guide for Maryland Million. So we
had a little query off camera, and I went straight on a MarylandMillion.com, where, of course, if you want to find any info you want about the Maryland Million, that's where to go. And I dug in, and we answered our question, and all was well for the next few seconds.
Yes, until we got confused again. And sitting under the Maryland and New Jersey flags. Gary, you're waving Maryland garb around here. The Maryland bread, the Maryland
horse, Maryland bread. You'll see them all on Saturday. And I actually think we should take this time to nominate Mackenzie, or talk to somebody at the Maryland Jockey Club. Mackenzie should be like our local, gal on the horseback interviewing the jockey as they're coming back. She can be our Maggie Wolfendale. How you'd go for that, would you, Mackenzie?
Oh, absolutely, sign me up.
See,
I could probably even borrow a pony from someone.
I think they'd have a hard time saying no to Mackenzie. She's obviously knows her way around horses, and she's shown that she can pick winners as well. So it's good to be on the same event with Mackenzie and John. So
I appreciate the flattery, but let's see how the weekend goes first.
And also John.
I'll just set you guys up for failure and let the old guy take this stage.
All right. Yes, Mackenzie and John both spat out winners at Timonium. Let's see if we can keep it going here for the 2023 Maryland Million. All right, Maryland Million Classic. That's the feature of the day. $150,000, 9 furlongs at Laurel, 1 complete circuit around the Laurel main track, and got a field of 8 plus 3 also eligibles. The morning line favorite here is Double Crown. Double Crown going to be 9-5 on the morning line. Gary, I'm going to start with you. You're the one person here who didn't pick Double Crown on top. And I'm curious if you did it for the same reason I would not pick him on top, which is he's just a little bit inconsistent to take favoritism on. Was that your thought?
I had Double Crown on my ticket, but not as my top pick. I just, that last race, he got a big number, not the biggest of his career, but I think he'll probably regress off of that. And the fact of the matter, of the 8 who are scheduled to go, only the returning champ, Our Nation on Parade, has won at this 9 furlong distance. And that's why a lot of these logical horses in here, I question their willingness to go the 9 furlongs. And I think it should be a pretty quick early pace. So I went with a horse that, you have to forgive me, Frank, an hour before we came on. I looked up for the morning lines and I didn't see any yet. So I'm going by my handicapping intuition that my horse, number 8, Loose Ends, is probably a double-digit morning line. Am I correct?
10. He's 10.
He is 10-1.
Yep.
And you look at him, and he hasn't even tried 9 furlongs, and he's on the cheap side. He hasn't been facing any stakes competition. But of all the horses in here, he's bred to be able to go that distance, and his running style tells me he'll enjoy the added distance. And if I'm going to get 10-1 or more on Loose Ends, who has run second in half of his career starts, I think he has the ability. Yeah, I think he has the ability to maybe, take advantage of somewhat of a pace meltdown, and I think Loose Ends will light up the tote board, and everybody can go home big or just go home.
Now, Mackenzie, you landed on Double Crown on top off a sharp score in the Polynesian. What's your thought here on this horse?
So, and it wasn't just the Polynesian, but the Charlestown Classic. And I think inconsistent, yes, you can definitely make that statement. But this one has faced some tough class. As a 6-year-old, and I think having just one work since that start in the Polynesian and win, I kind of like this coming in. I like the Loose Ends angle that you're taking there. I hadn't really thought of it that far, but I still have to go with Double Crown. I feel like this horse maybe just has a bit more class.
He certainly has faced better, as you said, and is a grade 2 winner, John.
Yeah, and he's closing in on he's at least getting into the ballpark of millionaire status. He's at 738 going into this race. If he wins, he'll be at 828. And knowing how often Lynn Cash and Roy Ginter like to run their horses, he should get himself in a good spot to get to $1 million.
By about next Tuesday.
Could happen. So he is 6 years old, a son of Anchor and Hope's Bourbon and Courage. I know we talked about this earlier in the week off camera and brought it up with Gary about how he's allegedly inconsistent. But if you take out the races where he really didn't belong, like his grass races and his race in the Charlestown Classic, and you look at just his dirt allowances and lower level stakes, he's in pretty good form. He's run some pretty good figures. He beat a pretty solid 3rd level allowance field on this track back in mid-August. Ran down all 3s, who was also in this race. Won the Polynesian, got a nice trip there over a pretty solid field. Uno Hope was in there, Be Better, Zava Gadava, a lot of big local names were in that race, and he beat him going away and ran his biggest figure in a long time. I think he's at a level where he belongs, as long as he doesn't get into too much trouble, and I'm not quite sure why he would. He should be pretty tough to beat.
Nobody's got any love for last year's champ, Our Nation on Parade. Anybody want to tell me why?
Well, I know Jay Williamson likes to come into the MHPA office. So Jay, if you watch this, you're free to come in the next day and give me a hard time. I mean, he really just does not like to win. Since the Classic, he's run, I think, about 9 times, and he's only won once, and he just barely got up to win that race over Zavakadabra. In particular, his last start in a Polynesian kind of left me cold. I didn't expect he'd win, but I also didn't think he'd lose by 15 lengths, and he really had nothing left to go home. I mean, it would not shock me if he won, but I'm not expecting.
Mackenzie, you're using all 3s underneath, and actually all 3 of you have all 3s, the 6 horse somewhere on the ticket. This is another one a little bit like Gary was talking about with his top choice, who's always in second. This horse likes to finish second a little bit.
Yeah, and it's funny, this is a really interesting division just between Maryland and Pennsylvania. You see a lot of these older horses who are really tough, and I kind of have to say it's on the day. And so for all these horses to be coming out of a pretty tough group, I do like all 3s. I think it's funny we all used in the same spot, but this little battle with Double Crown back and forth, it might just come down to who gets the trip for the day. Sheldon Knight sure is going to give the horse a great ride, and Hammy certainly knows his way around Maryland Million Day.
Yeah, for sure. And he could be sitting on a nice day. He's got a couple others in that could factor as well, and we'll touch on a couple of those a little bit later. All right, anybody have last thoughts here? Maryland Million Classic. Mackenzie's going 2614, Gary's going 8246, and John 2186. Any closing thoughts?
I do want to talk about Market Maven a little bit, who is my second choice. He's run very steadily sharp speed figures in Pennsylvania for Jamie Ness, solid third last time out in the alphabet soup after running near the pace. He should get a good trip on the inside. I think all 3s is he'll set the pace and fade, and then it could set up pretty nicely for Market Maven.
Right,
I'm right there with you on Market Maven. This is a horse who ran in the Wood Memorial, and you could say was on quite a big 3-year-old campaign back in 2021. And the horse has sort of been all over, had a long layoff after that, and has been popular at the claim box. So it's nice to see this horse get back to a little bit of a stakes company and hold his own. And I think he's also looking for the right day to take a step forward as his 5-year-old year comes to an end.
All right, Market Maven. Gary, you got anything to add?
No, it'll be interesting to see throughout the card all the stakes races. This is the first year that horses will run without Lasix. So I did a lot of my handicapping, just not putting a lot of credence into it, but just looking to see what horses have already run without Lasix after running with them, and if they were supposed to do anything that race and whatever. So that might be an angle to look at that we rarely or have never had to deal with on Maryland Million Day. Is every stakes race is no Lasix.
And every trainer you talk to says, I don't know. I don't know how the horse is going to run without Lasix. Might bleed. Don't know. So it is a big question mark for just about every horseman and every horse right now. So just another piece of the handicapping puzzle for us. All right, that's the Maryland Million Classic. That's going to go off as race 11, Maryland Million Day. Estimated post time 4:40 p.m.